All right. So Alex Jones has been in a bit of a legal tussle. Now, we covered this in the past, and we didn't really get into this angle of how loathsome the Onion is. So I want to correct that here. So Max did a very good kind of balanced tweet about this at the time. The Onion was reportedly on the verge of collapse when it was bought earlier this year by Jeff Lawson, a major Kamala donor and tech billionaire who hawks AI solutions, in quotes. This week, Lawson made headlines when he purchased Alex Jones's Infowars in a fire sale after Sandy Hook parents who obtained an eye-popping, seemingly unprecedented $1.5 billion judgment against Jones for the falsehoods he spread about them. To lead the Onion's parent company, which has subsumed Infowars, Lawson has appointed a CEO with no background in comedy or business. He is Ben Collins, a former, quote, disinformation and extremism reporter for NBC News, and one of the most recognizable faces of the censorship industrial complex that sprouted up during the Trump era to hound alt media figures like Jones. Collins has spent his short career pumping out a consistent stream of attacks on targets of the national security state and centrist political establishment, while spreading no shortage of misinformation along the way. Now, behind the brand of a once edgy satire mag, Collins promises, quote, "We're going to go after like every facet of alternative media that is trying to get you addicted to stupid stuff." His top targets, he says, will be podcasters and TikTok influencers. Now, we have this video, so I'm not going to read that through.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone.
Though Collins doesn't explain which stupid stuff or curious ideas he finds so objectionable, his agenda is fairly clear and deadly serious, and if you question it, you too are one of the conspiracists. So Max, absolutely right about all that. That's why we were speaking out against Alex Jones's deplatforming at the time when YouTube was pulling him off of YouTube. And we warned
Apple Podcasts, everywhere.
Yeah. We warned, Twitter, as many others did, it was going to start with Alex Jones and it was going to extend all of us. So here's the video in question of the person who was going to be put in charge of Infowars.
Here we are. The Onion owns Infowars. Look, we're going to go after all of every facet of alternative media that is trying to get you addicted to stupid stuff. There is a whole world of podcasters and TikTok influencers who have some really curious ideas of the world. And I also think that we're learning right now that they're...
Okay, now this is coming from people whose curious ideas of the world included supporting Kamala Harris, somebody who not a single person voted for, who was pushed into the nomination, who emphatically promised to continue funding and supporting a genocide. When these people say they're going to present rational news, what they mean is they're going to present establishment talking points. It sounds like basically what he wanted to do with Infowars is turn it into what Colbert's show is now, essentially, right, in its point of view.
Followings are just as big, if not bigger, than traditional celebrities, and they've gone unmocked. They got a free pass to this point.
What?
Literally, free pass. Yeah.
Literally every single late night show in the lane that it sounds like he wanted to put Infowars into, looks like he's not going to be able to. That's all they do. That's all they do is knock that whole ecosystem, all of its political figures, all of its media figures. That's literally all they do.
Right. And we don't think that that's fair.
Okay. All right. So that's the piece of work that was going to run Infowars, but it looks like no. Bankruptcy judge rejects Onion's bid for Infowars. The owners of the Onion say they are deeply disappointed in a judge's decision to reject their bid to buy Alex Jones's Infowars company. Late Tuesday, a federal bankruptcy judge said last month's auction of Jones's business and the Onion's bid, which had been selected as the winner, were flawed. After 2 days of testimony in Houston, Judge Christopher Lopez took issue with what he called the lack of transparency in the process, the uneven playing field, and the failure to maximize value for the people to whom Jones owes money. The decision is a significant and rare win for Jones, who has been embroiled in a long legal battle with relatives of the 26 children and educators killed at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newton, Connecticut, who sued Jones for defamation in 2018. The family said Jones's repeated lies that the 2012 shooting never happened prompted his followers to mercilessly stalk and threaten them for years. After Jones refused to cooperate at trial, judges in Connecticut and Texas found him liable by default, and juries then awarded the families more than $1 billion in damages, which Jones is still appealing. He then declared bankruptcy, and his media company, Free Speech Systems, was ordered to be sold off to help pay at least a fraction of what he owes the families. The Connecticut families immediately expressed disappointment through a statement from their attorney, Chris Mattei. The decision is all the more poignant to the families as it comes just days before the anniversary of the shooting on December 14th. These families, who have already persevered through countless delays and roadblocks, remain resilient and determined as ever to hold Alex Jones and his corrupt businesses accountable for the harm he has caused, Mattei said. Ben Collins, CEO of the Onion's parent company, Global Tetrahedron, said he, quote, will continue to seek a resolution that helps the Sandy Hook families receive a positive outcome for the horror they endured, but lamented that everyone was sent back to the drawing board with no winner and no clear path forward for any bidder. In an emergency broadcast Tuesday night, Jones crowed about his victory and derided the auction as yet another case of corruption and collusion.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we can celebrate the judge doing the right thing with the most ridiculous, fraudulent auction known in human history,
he said, calling the Onion offer
freaking cuckoo bird.
Lopez rejected allegations from Jones's lawyer of a rigged process and collusion between the trustee and the Onion. The judge said he believes everyone acted in good faith, but that the trustee overseeing the sale should have scratched and clawed to get a higher offer for the families. I don't like second-guessing trustees, the judge said, but that is exactly what he did. Quote, it's clear that U.S. bankruptcy trustee Christopher Murray left a lot of money on the table, Lopez said, adding that he thought the process was doomed the moment Murray decided to cancel a live auction and call for sealed best and final offers instead. Okay, that's the smoking gun to me. It sounds like this trustee, we can't know, but it sounds like this trustee wanted to do this.
Right.
That he wanted to, that he wanted to be able to pick a troll instead of picking the best offer. Otherwise, why would you not just do an open bid?
Right. You do an open
because then you lose control of who wins it, right?
Right.
The losing bidder, a business connected to Jones called First United American Companies, offered $3.5 million for Infowars. The Onion, without Jones, what's it worth?
I mean, it's still. I mean, that's pretty measly.
I'm sure the assets, like that set that he has, it ain't worth no $3.5 million. So what are you buying? Like what the Onion wanted to do with it was just a massive troll, and the guy's a tech billionaire, so he can afford a $7 million troll.
You can afford a $20 million troll. If you're going to do it as a troll, you can afford to spend some money. Yeah.
Infowars has no value. It's just a troll. It just becomes, the value of it becomes Infowars is now under the Onion brand.
That's worth a little more than $3.5 million. That's a bit of a fucking chintzy offer.
Well, no, what they offered. Okay, so to go on, the Onion in partnership with the Connecticut families offered $1.75 million in cash, and they're not clear about what this is. Plus a novel sweetener, they said raised the bid's value to at least $7 million. So we're not clear what that sweetener is. The article doesn't say. I don't know if anybody knows. The families agreed to forego some of the money they're entitled to
Lifetime
in order.
supply of rhino pills.
Yeah.
Sweetener.
Listen, they've specially bred human lizard hybrids.
Right.
They amputate the penis. They grind it up into a powder. You'll stay hard forever.
Yeah.
Last for a week.
The families agreed to forego some of the money they're entitled to in order to raise the amount that other creditors, including the Texas families, could collect. But the judge said both offers were too small. Lopez said he wants the trustee to sell Infowars in a way that will bring in more money. But how to do that, he said, is up to the trustee. And the judge wants to hear the plan in 30 days. The decision means Jones will be able to continue his show under the Infowars name to his Infowars audience and from his Infowars studio, at least for now. Had the Onion's bid been approved, Jones would have been kicked out of his studio and would have had to start rebuilding his audience and his brand from a backup studio. Now, to interject, that's not going to be a problem for him. He's just going to go to another studio. His audience is his audience. They're going to follow him to whatever domain he creates. The Onion's intent was to end Infowars' relentless barrage of disinformation and replace it with their brand of satire to skewer Jones's brand of conspiracy mongering. The site would have also promoted gun violence prevention through a collaboration with Everytown for Gun Safety, a nonprofit advocacy and research group. It's just a massive troll. I don't think you would have gained a single audience member the Onion doesn't already have. It just would have been, we have this brand. Tuesday's hearing was particularly contentious, stretching on to nearly 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Attorneys for FUAC, that's an unfortunate acronym, and Jones aggressively pressed Murray, who was on the stand for more than 8 hours Tuesday, prompting multiple objections and badgering the witness and reminders from the judge to maintain decorum. Murray maintained that he was well within his authority to hold the kind of auction he thought would yield the highest value for creditors. Yeah, sure, that's why you did it. Yeah, open bidding doesn't create the highest bid. Secret ballot does. He said he analyzed the Onion multiple ways and that any way you sliced it, it was the higher and better deal for the creditors. Quote, under all of those different scenarios and permutations, the Onion's offer was just better than the other, Murray said, by a lot. Jones's conspiracy-laden podcasts go back some 25 years and have included claims that the U.S. government was behind the 9/11 attacks. That's just crazy talk. Who would think such a thing other than my co-host? He was kicked off multiple social media sites in recent years, but he got a big boost when Elon Musk reinstated his Twitter, now X account late last year. See, that's the thing. I mean, he's going to be fine as far as that goes. I assume they'll be able to attach his earnings forever, basically, to fulfill this suit. But he's not going to have a problem moving somewhere else and having an audience. Jones has been fighting to avoid losing his X account again, fearing it would be sold as part of his bankruptcy estate. Again, X showed up for Jones, arguing that the accounts belonging to X Corp cannot be considered property of the estate and cannot be transferred or sold without X's consent. The trustee and X announced on Monday they'd struck a deal that would allow Infowars' buyer to acquire the content from Infowars' X accounts, but not the accounts themselves. However, the judge's decision to reject the Onion deal now throws this issue, like everything else, back into question. Bruce Markell, a former U.S. bankruptcy judge and now Northwestern Law School professor, said the judge's decision was shocking and disappointing. Quote, it seems that the good was held hostage to the better, Markell said, and now the costs of dealing with an obstreperous debtor, Jones, just keep mounting. All right, so as we said the first time we covered it, and we covered it way back, yes, he did make these kinds of claims about the family. I identified it as libel, but I was thinking slander. It's clearly slander. We have slander laws. I think most of the people who feel that was no big deal probably don't have kids themselves. I think if, God forbid, that happened to your kid and some guy doing essentially performance art sicked his audience on you, whether advertently or inadvertently, through false accusations of really sick accusations of making up something like this, you'd be happy to see the problems that he's having today. That having been said, as civil libertarians, as freedom of speech advocates, clearly the punitive number is excessive, and there is an element of punishing Alex Jones for being Alex Jones rather than for what he said specifically and what the details of the case are. And this does have a chilling effect on speech. You don't have to agree with what Alex Jones says to recognize from the beginning that that's what this was always about. It was never really about helping the families, even though, he kind of did fuck around and find out. As far as his show goes, look, people always talk about, hey, Alex Jones was right about this, he was right about that. Well, if on every show you basically throw every single conspiracy theory in the world against the wall, some of them are going to stick. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who's been on the air probably 20 hours a week for how many decades now? I mean, yeah.
Why don't you list all the things he's wrong about?
Right.
You bring that up, people will be like, there are chimeras. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the original ruling on this, because we did a segment on this, was funny in an amoral sort of Coen Brothers universe kind of way, right?
Sure.
And so there was a certain joy in that. But this seems seems like the correct move. I think if Alex
Coen
Jones
Brothers
does have
and that
to,
everyone,'s a freak in the whole story.
Right.
Like that's
exactly,
very Coen. Yeah. They're all freaks. Everyone's a freak in this story.
Yeah, exactly. Just this kind of bizarre, quirky, offbeat universe where no one is really trustworthy. Everybody is kind of a villain of sorts, right? Yeah. But yeah, if Alex Jones does have to open up his own shop, loses the Infowars brand, he could troll the Onion back by calling his outlet The Shallot. What do you think about that? The Shallot with Alex Jones.
Alex, if you're watching, you can have that one for free.
Can have that one for free.
Next one, we're going to have to talk about prices.
Yes, exactly. That one's on the house.
Please clap.